Greetings, mobile accomplishers. Welcome to the Vergecast. Today is July 30th, 2015. I am Dieter Bohn.
I'm Dan Seifert.
I'm Chris Ziegler.
And I'm Sam Sheffer.
This is not the Verge Mobile Show, although it sounds a lot like it, but it's officially not the Verge Mobile Show because we have neither Vlad, nor do we have Carrots in his place, nor, frankly, is the Verge Mobile Show a thing anymore? No,
it's true.
But we figured since this is the crew, it would be fun to talk just about mobile things. Also cars, because cars are mobile.
Cars are the biggest mobile gadgets you can get, right?
Cars are technically mobile. It's true.
Well, besides planes.
Unless they're up on blocks. Yeah, that's true. Although some aircraft are smaller than some cars, so you have to take that into consideration too.
This is the technical cast.
Sam,
now.
I need a hype check on Windows 10 now that it's out.
It's still a 10, I think. Yeah.
Still 10?
The hype is maintaining itself.
But what about all them bugs? Doesn't that bring it down at least a little?
No, Microsoft finally did a good thing.
How much Windows 10 have you used?
I've seen it. I haven't used it.
Really?
Yeah, but I know the hype is real.
I will say that having used it a lot, it's a great operating system, great update, but there are a ton of bugs and a lot of annoying bugs.
Yeah, try using iOS 9.
Yeah, but
No.
iOS 9 is not a beta.
It's not.
Or
No,
is
it
is a beta. I mean,
Yeah.
Windows 10's not.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there are a lot of bugs in production release Gold OS 10. A lot of bugs in iOS 8. I don't think that we can say that Microsoft is any worse. Than
Well,
I'm
Tesla.
gonna be installing the Android M Preview 3 on my phone when it comes out. Just FYI.
The thing I
be
will
my
say
thing.
about Windows 10 is that it has way more bugs than you'd expect for like a gold release Windows operating system.
Yeah, Mossberg said the same thing in his review, too.
Windows 7 when it released was super solid. Windows 8 was full of loaded interface problems and bad ideas, but it didn't have a ton of bugs. If you go back to Vista launched with a ton of problems because of incompatibilities and like drivers and everything else that was
Vista was
messed with
just bad.
Yeah, but a lot of that had to do
you
with
weren't born yet when Vista came out, Sam. But to be fair, the first release of any new version of OS 10 is super buggy.
Yeah.
Well,
What did he say?
our producer is speaking into our ears.
It's something about my mic.
He said to raise it.
Oh, raise my mic.
I thought he said, "Where is it?"
Yeah, he did say, "Where is
it's
it?"
right here, bro.
So I guess we're talking about Windows 10 right off the bat.
Yeah, well, so I mean, Tom reviewed it. Everybody, not everybody, virtually. No, this is the knob right here. You need to
I got
twist
it. I got it.
Z-Power.
We're good.
Everybody writes about tech at The Verge had a hand in writing a story about it, except for me. I was editing a lot of those stories. We also had a huge feature from Tom from inside Microsoft's campus where he talked to a bunch of the executives who made Windows 10. If you haven't seen all of our Windows coverage, I don't know what to tell you.
It's good.
How did you miss it? It's my
good.
question, but
Yeah. I just like, what's wrong with you?
Also, it was either yesterday or the day before, there was a point on the site when I noticed that our top 13 traffic posts were all Windows 10 content.
Yeah.
So guess what? People like Windows 10. People are into
iVerge.
it. iVerge. Hashtag iVerge.
WinVerge.
WinVerge,
Microverge.
Microverge. Man.
don't translate into French.
You went there.
So, but we're doing the mobile show. So the thing that we don't have yet are Windows 10 phones, Windows Mobile, Windows 10 Mobile.
I think it's going to be called Windows 10
on mobile.
for phones.
Windows 10 for phones.
Or Windows 10 phone.
I thought they were going with like Windows Mobile. Again, just go back to that well.
Windows Phone 10
But
edition.
it's still Windows 10. Like the core of
Yeah.
it is Windows 10. That's the whole idea of Windows 10.
Would
so it
you
runs
say that
everywhere.
it's Windows 10 series? Is that what you were saying?
Oh God, Windows 10 phone series.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to get that to the fall. Is what Microsoft's been
Yeah,
saying.
but apparently Microsoft is like totally happy to show stuff. They teased a pre-production device to Tom when he went there. He wrote about that. We've got somebody in our forums who actually saw one at an event. I'm gonna identify this person as soon as it was Naz81, which by the way, good name.
It is a good name.
Maybe it's Nas.
Naz81.
Maybe it's
Nas.
Nas.
It's NAS all caps.
Yeah, so it could be NAS. Or it could be a network area storage, one of the two.
Right. Yeah, and
Wow.
it's possible. You think the 81 is actually like Windows 8.1?
Or probably the year he was born. Or she.
Yeah, hard to say. Anyway, saw one as well, and Joe Pelfiore of Microsoft just tweeted out a picture, but it wasn't actually. He claims it's not actually one of the next Lumias. It's instead like a
reference device.
Engineering
device.
sample
Yeah.
is what he referred to it. Yeah.
So the thing that Microsoft is talking about right now, and that they've shown off, and Dan and I saw it, is Continuum from a phone. And basically, the way it works is you can run basically 2 apps at the same time. One on another screen and with a mouse and a keyboard, and then another one on your phone. So it's not the full dream of I just have this phone and it's actually a computer, and as soon as I hook it up to a monitor, it becomes a full computer running full Windows 10. You can run your app on a bigger screen.
Yeah, it's
And
like a
there's
desktop-like interface. Like
Kinda,
there's
sorta.
kind of sort of a desktop
Yeah.
there. There's the start menu that brings up the tiles, but it doesn't have the full start menu that you see on Windows 10 with like the file listings and the folder access and stuff like that. And then your apps run full screen.
Right.
But the apps are like, so if you launch Mail, you get like kind of the desktop layout of Mail with the 3 different panes.
Yeah, which is like, because those panes are actually there in the mobile version too, just on your phone. That's like the way a modern email client works. Is it's the same app, it just expands out and it understands how big a screen it's on, and it presents you a different format based on the size of the screen. A strategy, by the way, pioneered by
Motorola.
WebOS.
Of course, there it is. You did it. You fulfilled your mention.
Welcome to the
it's
Verge
what-
Mobile Show, ladies and gentlemen.
Cascades, right? Is
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
yes, okay.
So they did this with Enyo, and back then.
No, but
If anyone knows what Dieter is talking about, please email Dieter at theverge.com. If you were an Enyo user, thank you very much.
But talking about Continuum, why is this going to work now when it didn't work for Motorola 5 years ago?
A lot. Well, if you ask Microsoft, they'll say instantly the OS is built for it because it's built to run across platforms. Whereas like Motorola was using a hacky version of Android and it had this weird interface. And then they'll also say that the hardware is more capable of pushing it.
Yeah, no, the reason that it has a better chance of working is it's meant for a different use case. The Atrix was, man, I'm a businessman and I just want this phone and I feel so cool. And you talk just like that in that voice. I feel so cool sticking this phone into this weird jacked up thing, and then it's like there and it's great. Like I'm cool. I'm a nerd and I'm famous or whatever. But with Continuum, like I
don't have to be famous.
I don't think Microsoft
Or a
genuinely
nerd, or
believes
cool.
that people do that, right? No, it's like this is the phone I can afford. It's my one phone. But I maybe want to use it as a computer at some point, and so I get to use my phone as a computer when I go to school. So I think it might be more of a developing market play than it is. I'm the guy with the tie and a vest.
Microsoft
even though
admits,
vests are dumb.
Belfiore just tweeted this today. It requires new hardware.
Yeah.
It requires some capabilities. It runs wirelessly over Bluetooth or Miracast, or it can run through a dock. So maybe at some point it'll get to the emerging market play, but I think when it launches this fall, it's going to be the high-end devices that can do it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic, since one of Windows Phone's very few strong suits has been in emerging markets.
Right.
So they certainly aren't winning the flagship play.
It was until cheap Android phones became a thing.
But they are promising the
Yeah,
flagship
true.
is finally coming. Right. Like one's coming for sure, maybe 2. And we've seen the rumors.
There's been a number of leaks.
There's the City Man and the Talk Man, I think, that's just like the
those
Lumia
are-
950 and 950 XL.
Will,
Yes, those are the codes.
Windows 10 mobile matter?
Are you hype checking us?
Yeah. No, I didn't say those words. I said, will it matter?
Matter in what way? Will it be made up of physical particles? Will it be literally matter? Because yes, the answer, other than the software bits, which technically, if you think about it, software is made up of moving electrons and therefore is also constituted of matter. The ideas, however, not so much matter. They exist in the Platonic realm of ideas, instantiated.
Allow me-
in
This is a level of
Allow me
pedantry
to-
that we have never seen
Allow
on the
me
show
to
before.
rescind my question and rephrase. Will humans give a damn about the new version of Windows Mobile?
Frankly,
Yeah.
my dear, no.
It's not
yeah.
looking positive.
It's an uphill battle, needless to say.
I mean, Microsoft's strategy, which they've said over and over again, is, make a Windows 10 app on the desktop and
And
it'll just work
it's-
on the phone,
yeah.
and maybe we'll actually get some apps on the phone and then people will care.
Yeah.
And that's good in theory, but in practice, I mean, we'll have to see if people actually make those apps
Right.
for the desktop.
Ben made some really great points in his Windows 10 report about why it's free and how the play is to get those developers and move them over to Windows Phone. But on your desktop, the impetus to build an app is very low because most people do things through the browser. So Facebook doesn't need a great app on a desktop environment because it's just Facebook in the browser. Same thing,
Can these Windows developers build solely for the mobile platform?
No.
And then vice versa.
It's all the same code.
It's the same platform.
Yeah. So if you're building an app for Windows,
it's like
will work.
It's like saying can you build an app that's only for the iPhone 6 but not the 6 Plus?
So then that argument of will developers build specifically for desktop doesn't really matter then, because you just have to ask, will developers build for Windows at all?
Yeah, but the developers are not building for Windows Phone, and they never have built for Windows Phone because the user base is not existent on Windows Phone. The user base is existent on the desktop, and that's where Microsoft has users. So if developers want to build for Microsoft users, they're building for Windows 10, which right now is the desktop. The idea Microsoft wants is, well, if you built it for Windows 10, it'll also work on the phone.
How much?
But your point is sound, which is that on the desktop, the native apps aren't the play.
Right.
So you can't necessarily make that conversion.
Right. And then when you think of like desktop apps and you think of things like Adobe Photoshop and, all of these like heavy intensive apps, they don't really translate to mobile. So
Right. Is Microsoft generating revenue for developers from its Windows Store at all in a significant way?
So there was a smaller site, I can't even remember the name of it right now, I believe, posted what was allegedly some revenue numbers of Windows phones, the Windows Phone store from going back like 3 or 4 years. And it's not verified. I can't say whether it's accurate or not, but it showed to be pretty low sales for some really high profile apps.
Interesting.
So a lot of free downloads, but like maybe 1,500 paid downloads. So like,
it's a little confusing to me. There's billions, millions, hundreds of millions, billions maybe PCs around the world. And
a billion, I think, was it Microsoft always says 1 billion users?
Billion.
Yeah. And
1.5,
and
whatever.
It just feels like no one's developing for Windows.
But I mean, people
true.
are developing for Windows. Like, they're not developing for Windows Phone.
Okay.
And there are a few developing for Windows 10, but that just started.
Okay.
So you can't really say like, but
Well, I mean, it started with 8.1.
Yeah, but Windows 10 is like different. And like, Google develops for Windows with Chrome.
True.
There's lots of desktop apps.
True.
And lots of the traditional style applications. And of course, the enterprise is full of like these legacy applications that run on desktops. It's the new app world where everybody thinks apps are mobile is where Microsoft has not gotten the developer support.
And is that all that we think that Windows Phone needs? If it gets the apps, then everything will be fine.
No,
because
that you're more likely at this point. We're so saturated in the smartphone market that you're more likely to just stick with what you have, right? I mean,
or what your friends have.
Yeah, and I mean, Lauren Good made this point in a piece she wrote for Recode recently, which is that Windows Phone is actually really good. It's just that you've never used it and you're probably not going to.
Right.
Yeah. So, I will say, having used it, so Microsoft, just like it did the previews for the desktop, has released a number of previews of the Windows 10 for phones. And so I've played with them as they've come out, and they are in rough shape.
Yeah.
You've been able to use Windows 10 on a desktop for a few months if you were willing to deal with on the desktop. You've been using it for a few months if you were willing to deal with a few bugs here and there. On the phone, it's like if you're using that as a daily driver, like
you're doomed.
More power to you. So they have a very short period of time if they're going to reach this fall launch to like really clean it up and make it a usable experience.
Yeah. So the two phones. The specs are impressive, but not like, oh my god, I have to have this impressive. Windows Central, my old job, has made some renders that Tom says are accurate. And you look at the spec list, the 950, the Talkman, is a 5.2 inch OLED, 1440 by 2560. It's got a Snapdragon 808, 20 megapixel camera, and 3 gigs
So
of
essentially,
RAM.
it'll be like 6 months behind the top Android phones.
Yeah, well, and the 950 XL is the same thing, same resolution. It's just got an 810 and a 5.7 inch screen.
The one thing that's interesting is that they're supposed to have a pen support, which we haven't seen on any Windows phones yet. You think of pens, today you think of the Note series from Samsung, but
you don't think they're going to have a
Surface
stylus in there, do you?
I think so. If it supports the Surface Pen.
No, I bet it'll just support the Surface Pen if you happen to have one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, and then looking at it, they look like Lumias, right? They're just big, square, and blocky.
Are they cyan?
Cyan?
Yeah. If they aren't, then they don't matter.
Cyan
Right.
XB, XA.
Not cyan.
You
cyan.
really
Can you
said
tell Chris?
Scion.
Yeah, can you tell Chris covers cars now?
Yes, are they cyan?
The render that Windows Central made is white, and
Yeah.
I believe the ones that Tom has seen in person have been black and pretty like.
Well,
ugly
and like inside big hide me,
Yeah.
don't tell me what kind of phone I have cases too.
exactly. Yeah.
So, man, I don't know. It's like we've spent 15 minutes talking about it, and we're just going to end with meh. Like they've got to do something exciting, and I don't think Continuum is it.
Well, we have the exact same conversation every time a new version of Windows Phone comes out. I mean,
Right.
it's what did they need to do to get to push themselves? And I think
sorry.
Satya in his recent memo to I think it was a memo to employees, noted that they're kind of giving up on the notion that Windows Phone will ever be a mainstream play.
Yeah.
It's a niche play now.
Yeah.
Right. I just wonder how long they're going to really support that as a niche play.
Right.
My gut feeling is that he set that up in that memo to be like, yeah, we're coming out with new phones this fall. We're going to put it on Windows 10 on phones this fall. But, there's no really outlook beyond that. So is it going to be like these don't sell and then we're just going to fade it away and forget about
Sounds like a
phones?
company I used to know.
No, it's different actually. A different company I was actually going to
What were you gonna say?
That business plan sounds a lot like BlackBerry.
Oh, I haven't heard that name in a while.
They should buy BlackBerry. 'Cause
No.
No. That's the Microsoft mobile move. Buy a company and then kill it. They should
no,
totally
God,
buy
can you
BlackBerry.
imagine
But
Microsoft
don't do it until BlackBerry releases a vertical slider Android phone with a physical keyboard. Let them put that badass
Oh my God, can you
descended phone
imagine?
down.
No, and Stephen Elop has to become CEO.
Yes. BlackBerry. I'm sorry, John
Okay.
Chen. You're fired. They're bringing in Elop, and then Microsoft is buying BlackBerry. It's going to be amazing. It's the double Elop.
Yeah, it's the double
Double
Elop.
Elop.
All the way.
2016, Microsoft buys BlackBerry. BlackBerry releases an Android slider that dual boots into Windows also.
Yeah. Huh?
Yep.
Huh?
Wow. And Windows 10
But
and
only available to enterprise customers.
Windows 10 and BlackBerry OS both support what? Android apps.
Yeah, there you go.
So-
It's true.
Triple booting? Triple beef? Is it possible?
All right, hype check this beautiful future.
Oh my God, it would be disgusting to see that happen.
I don't even know if that's a good thing. Is that a good disgusting? Is that a bad disgusting?
Can you imagine if
Is that nasty?
if
Is
the
it be like that was
BlackBerry,
straight
if like
nasty?
a core BlackBerry user became like a rabid Windows fan?
Oh my
and,
God.
it would just be a nightmare.
Well, dude, but think about it. Every BlackBerry user definitely uses a Windows laptop, like a really business oriented Windows laptop. So this is the dream for them, right? They can have. It's like maximum business in their pocket. It's like you might as well put a 3-piece suit on the phone.
That's what they said. That square thing. What was it
The
called?
passport.
It looked like it was wearing a 3-piece suit. Like they designed it to look like it was wearing a suit.
that phone was a hunk of bust. That thing was so bad.
No, but the people that bought
you're
the
gonna get some
passport.
emails.
Literally, people
yeah.
bought the passport.
No, but the people that bought the passport
if
are
you
like.
bought a BlackBerry passport, I would love for you to email me.
Sam,
you're gonna get some emails, man.
Yeah,
You're just gonna
you're in
regret
trouble, dude. No, but passport fans are some of the most rabid
They are.
mobile
Let me tell
fans
you,
on the planet.
they are because I wrote that review and got emails for months.
I still get emails with the BlackBerry Classic review. People
Yep.
are mad at me about that.
It just came out in a limited edition blue color.
Oh my God.
Well,
Okay, let's call it right now, and then we should move on to another topic.
Should we? I don't know.
When are we going to see the end of BlackBerry, or when will BlackBerry be bought?
As soon as they release the phone that I want them to release, and
That's
then
it.
I don't care. Just give me
The one thing that
last
BlackBerry
hurrah
is
with
like-
a vertical slider, and
So,
I'm
but
just going to
they just-
pretend. I'm
they're
just going to be like,
they're not going anywhere.
No.
Like BlackBerry.
They just posted a strong quarter.
Yeah, they Chen has been cutting cost measures like a beast, and they've got $3 billion in the bank. Like they've got money to burn. They can ride it all out. If they need to work out that play of not just cutting their costs, but also making more money.
Are there
But-
humans out there that are going into mobile stores and saying, "I'm getting a BlackBerry"?
No, that's not how
today"?
they buy BlackBerry
No.
phones anymore.
So
one
it's all
of two
business.
things happens. Either they get one from their company, or there's such a hype beast because they've been using BlackBerries for 10 years that they order one online. That's how you buy a
Or
BlackBerry.
they're in Indonesia where they actually line
or
up
they're
outside
in
the stores
Indonesia.
for them.
Yeah. And you know they're going to come out with the Passport XL that's like this. It's like a 70 square.
It's an iPad with a keyboard.
Wait a minute. On a Passport XL running Windows 10, you could actually choose to put it in the desktop mode because it's big enough that you wouldn't have to use the tablet mode on
But
it.
it has a permanently attached physical keyboard that you can't remove.
Right.
They're just giant buttons.
It could be like a full-size keyboard almost.
It'd be like if you gave a baby that Passport, that's what it would look like for a human to use it.
Yeah, well, baby can't pick up a Passport because it weighs like 4 pounds.
It lasts forever though. The battery is crazy.
And the thing's
on
a
that thing.
tank. You can drop kick it and it's fine.
What operating system is BlackBerry running right now?
BlackBerry
BlackBerry
OS.
10.
BlackBerry 10.
Yeah, what does that even mean? It runs. It runs Android.
It's not running some like fork.
No,
of,
the vertical slider that's been rumored, it was originally running. If you look really closely at the picture, it looks like it was running BlackBerry OS. But the latest rumors are that they're switching to Android.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm not a BlackBerry beast. Look at me. Come on.
All right. So, anything else to say about the Windows phones?
We just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Cyan.
What'd you think of Continuum when you saw it?
It was cool. I don't. I mean, as me, I'm never gonna use it. I just the use case, like you say, it's not for business people, but I feel like the use case is for business people because they'll walk into a meeting, they'll have their PowerPoint slides on their phone, and then they can shoot them to the screen, and they swipe through them on their phone.
Well, Continuum is the tablet to desktop and desktop to tablet mode.
It's also the phone to screen. So you
It's
can
it's
run.
the Windows 10 everywhere mode. It's
Yeah.
it's so that you can switch between your devices seamlessly, and
I feel
then
like
Windows
that
10
might be good
adapts.
for normals.
It'll be good if you own a Surface and you rip the keyboard off.
Yeah, and it just goes boom. You're in full screen mode now.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
How it'll translate to a phone, we'll see.
yeah. It's kind of like handoff for iOS. A little.
No, nothing at all. Like that.
Handoff, and can I just say that handoff does nothing of value?
It just pops up the little thing, and you're like, "What is that on my dock?"
Yeah. it works maybe 5% of the time.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Like who honestly composes a message on their phone? Then they're like, "No, I'm gonna bring this to the keyboard." Doesn't happen.
I'm gonna finish this on my laptop.
No, it doesn't happen.
And you leave it open on your phone, and you're like, "Oh shit, I've got a computer right here."
Yeah, no, I don't think that ever happens. If you use, no, I'm not going to even ask for emails anymore.
Did you get a bunch of emails from last week?
I've probably gotten 200 emails
Are you
over the last
kidding?
week. Yeah, they're still coming in.
Oh my god, what are they saying to
There's
you?
a lot of PC users out there that are telling me their story.
Yeah.
There was
There's
one
a lot
person,
of PC users out there.
Yeah.
That's reality.
There was
They're telling him their story.
Yeah, yeah.
what was it like?
I'm an engineer from this school, or I've been using PC my whole life, or MacBooks are too expensive in my country, and there's a lot of interesting answers. And then there's also Apple Watch owners that are own an Apple Watch. They use it for fitness and checking text messages. What's about all it does. Let's talk about Moto X.
Well, hang on. One really quick last thing. Is the Edge browser going to be any good on Windows Phone? Because you're impressed with it on the desktop, but it feels like a mobile browser. It feels completely not a full-featured browser. They made it for the phone, and they're like, oh yeah, let's just run it on the desktop.
Maybe. I mean, the versions that are on these early preview builds are really kind of bad.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't base off of that. Also, because Windows Phone hasn't had any decent hardware in 2 or 3 years, it's
Yeah.
all these previews are running on pretty old phones. I think I was running it on a Lumia 830, which is pretty low mid-range phone. So it.
I snap at my computer when it won't load a page. I'm like, no, right now. And something that works. It's like when you're at a stoplight and you're like, and go. And you
Yes,
nail
I
it
do
when
that.
the light turns green and you feel really like you made it happen.
There's actually technology for that Audi came up with.
You know what? I don't know what. Tell me about this technology.
It was at CES last year. They know in advance when the light's going to turn red, and it tells you exactly what speed to travel on the road so that
Wow,
you'll hit
that's
it.
dope as hell.
That is the
also
ultimate
probably
old man
dangerous,
driving
but
trick.
you can roll your car back and forth if you're at a stoplight or stop, and it'll traffic light and it'll change the light.
No,
apparently,
that's not true.
That's only if there's no traffic in the other direction and you're at a smart light, which is not most lights.
I've used it before in Jersey and it works. So that's it. That's my story.
Yeah. What happens if the stoplight in Jersey sees a UFO?
Are we gonna go there again?
See,
Are we really gonna go there?
cuts
That's
from the
fine.
Vergecast.
That's fine.
We got to build these running jokes to
Keep.
Otherwise, they're not
something.
running jokes.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, we're sitting jokes.
All right, I'm gonna read this ad. Are you ready?
Do it.
Okay. building a website can be tough. And even if you don't know your way around coding, or you do know your way around coding, making something that actually looks good and actually works, it takes a ton of time. So whether you're making a business site, a portfolio, a restaurant site, or whatever, in this day and age, you really do need one. You need a website. And lucky for you, Squarespace makes it easy to build beautiful websites without breaking a sweat. Squarespace provides simple, powerful, and beautiful website that will look professionally designed regardless of your skill level. No coding is required. Not only does Squarespace provide you with intuitive and easy-to-use tools to create your website, it also has state-of-the-art technology powering your site so that it is secure and stable. And you know you can trust Squarespace for your website needs when millions of people and some of the most respected brands in the world trust them too. So, seriously, you cannot beat the ease and simplicity of Squarespace. Squarespace gives you 24/7 online support and a beautiful website for only $8 a month. You can even get a free domain if you buy Squarespace for a whole year. There's nothing to wait for. What are you waiting for? Stop waiting. Just go start a free trial with no credit card required to start, and start building your website today. When you sign up for Squarespace, and you know you're gonna, make sure to use the offer code VERGE to get 10% off your first purchase, and it will show your support for us here at the Vergecast. So we thank Squarespace for support of us here, the Vergecast. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
I got an email, subject line, passport. I got a BlackBerry passport, ... all caps, and loving it. # smoking the wacky weed. I'm not kidding. It's right here.
Told you you'd get emails.
You know what's weird about that email is I managed to send it while I was doing the ad read. Like I was just...
Anyhow.
I have a lot of questions about the wacky weed, but that'll have to wait.
By the way, only a BlackBerry user would say, I'm smoking the wacky weed.
We love you, BlackBerry users. We do. All right, Motox.
Yeah, all right.
Motog.
Dan, what did you think of the Motorola event? It was here in New York, and also
kinda.
in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and also in
Kinda.
London.
And
At
also,
the same time.
Brazil is a big market for them.
they didn't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
any presenting in Mexico, but they were rebroadcasting.
Right. And
in
we've
Mexico.
seen lots of companies try and do these multi-city keynotes before, and they always end up as kind of a disaster. This one was less of a disaster than most.
The
but
handoffs between the
nevertheless,
hosts were less awkward. I mean, it was still...
There was one moment when an executive who I won't name, like he handed it off to another country, but then the camera didn't cut out, and he like had to stand there smiling, and then was like, I'm done smiling, and like it turned into a grimace, and then it just went to black. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was an odd way to host an event, but definitely, like you said, not the first time they've done this. You know, Samsung's done this before.
Yeah.
But you know, whatever about the event. It's all about the products.
Okay, so 3. We have the Moto X Style.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Style.
same thing.
AKA
The Moto X Pure Edition.
AKA the new flagship, AKA the top of the line.
Yes, and then there's the Moto X Play, which is man, you just
I had to. I had to do all 3 of them.
what are you gonna do for the last one?
Oh, gee.
Oh my god. The Moto X Play, which is like a cheap Moto X with a big ass battery.
Not a flagship, not an entry level.
Can you give some
Yeah.
perspective on that battery?
It's big.
It's like 30 milliamp hours.
Yeah, but it's tied to a lower resolution screen
And a
That's
lower
is it
spec
720p.
So
No,
how-
or is it
what-
1080p
1080p?
screen.
It's 1080p.
What is the
But it's got
battery in
low power
like
proc.
the S6?
S6 is
It's like
2600.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
So it's
Yeah.
a full
So
1,000.
it's got a pared down processor, just quote unquote just a 1080p screen at 5. I gotta look. 5.
I think it's 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5.
and it's got fast charging.
Yeah, so
Yeah, they did last year too.
The thing is going to last an eternity, but it's not available in the U.S. The Play is not. And then there's the G, which is the phone that Motorola actually sells.
Right.
And it is very well updated. It's got LTE. It's got a 720p screen. It's got the same camera as a Nexus 6.
Yeah.
Which supports HDR.
It's got customizability with Moto Maker now.
Customizability.
I might be
Motomaker.
lying about this, but I'm pretty sure that Motorola is the #1 phone maker in Brazil, which is why they hosted there, and
Yeah.
that's all G&E. That's all G&E.
You know what number 2 is? Alcatel One Touch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, they like things a little different down there.
All right, so I need to talk about the branding strategy here of these phones from
We were
Motorola.
deeply confused.
Well, it's
here.
kind of a throwback to the way phones used to be branded like 5 years ago, where there were
my
like
God.
10 acronyms on every phone.
like the Samsung Continuum, and then like the
4G LTE
Captivate,
Skyrocket.
Yeah.
and the Motivate, and the Deviate, and the whatever else.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nobody
So
ever made a
instead of-
phone called Deviate.
So instead of
HTC's next flagship phone.
so instead of like
HTC's next flagship phone is literally going to be the sound of a sad trombone. There's no way to write it. You have to embed an MP3 player in your headline and in your copy every time you write about it. The HTC
can Vox Product build SoundCloud integration into the chorus that quickly? So
Sorry,
instead
yeah.
of like Chris was just saying, like there all used to be all different names, but that was all like separated and determined by the carriers. So instead of like
right, that's
separating
right.
the names by the carrier choices, Motorola is doing it by market, and it's like
So explain.
So the Moto X style, which is the exact same hardware as the Moto X except for the radio bands, is the Moto X. It's the Moto X. It's available.
Wait,
in all
the
the
style is the same as the 2014 Moto
No.
X?
It's like when you think of what's 2015's Moto X? Like it's the Moto X style.
Style,
It will be
okay.
available in lots of countries. It will be branded by different carriers, and it will probably have different carrier software on it. It's the flagship around the world. They're calling it the Moto X style. But they're not selling the Moto X style in the United States. Instead, they're selling the Moto X Pure Edition, which is essentially it only has Motorola's customizations, nothing from the carriers. It's a single phone that has universal bands on it, so it'll work across all major U.S. carriers. And you just buy it at $399 outright. I'm sure it's $50 more for the higher memory edition.
yeah, that'd be my guess. Yeah.
And that's it. And so that's like Motorola is very proud of it. They're saying, look,
So style and pure, wait, and then there's...
so style and pure, and then there's also, as long as we're talking about Moto X, the Moto X Play, which doesn't have the metal, it doesn't have like the wood backs, it doesn't have the high end, super high end specs, and it's being sold around the world as like a phone that's like you can't afford the cool Moto X style, and you're too cool for the actually pretty good Moto G, but you'll get the Moto X Play because you'll get a little bit of that Moto X shine on you. Plus, you want a really long battery life. It's like high. It's like low, high, mid range, high, low, upper.
I was calling it
mid-range,
the
low.
upper lower middle class phone.
Yeah, it's the upper lower middle class phone.
So there's 4, maybe 3 new devices for
There's
Motorola.
3 new
There's
devices.
3 new
4
devices.
names.
No one is actually sure how
4
many new
names.
devices.
But I get market division. I get not selling the Play in the U.S. I get the difference between the G, the Play, and the style. I think calling the Play a Moto X is a mistake, but whatever.
Remember the Xperia Play?
Do I?
But the question on the table right now is why not just call it the Moto X?
Yeah.
The second question is why call it the Moto X style? And the third question, well, the third question is straight up why are they not selling it on U.S. carriers? Motorola will tell you it's because they're pure as a driven snow, and they want to do what we've been asking for this whole time, which is get around, contracts and not have to like have the actual cost of the phone hidden from you and sell direct to consumers and completely break the connection between like you buy the phone from the carrier and you're tied to that carrier for life and the carrier owns the phone more than you do. Like they will tell you that's the reasoning, but I guarantee you they're going to sell the Moto G with U.S. carriers. Mm-hmm. They're doing all of those things with carriers everywhere else on the planet. It's just here in the U.S. where they tell us that market research tells them that U.S. carriers want a pure edition, so that's why they're calling it pure edition instead of style. Because that plays better
my
here.
market research tells me that nobody buys Motorola phones in the U.S.
Well, in reality, their market strategy is the same in the U.S. as it was last year. The only difference being 2015's model can be used on all 4 nationals.
No, because
right?
last year you could go to AT&T and buy a Moto X. You could go to
but
Verizon
they've said
and buy a Moto X.
Right, but the indication is that the Moto X is eventually going to make it to U.S. carriers, right?
no. They've clarified that.
Nope.
You're sure?
They said that on stage. They clarified it later in a roundtable, and I have an email from Motorola stating we have no plans to sell this phone through U.S. carrier channels.
Well, that's just insane.
Right.
Is it going to be
They're
sold on
shooting themselves in the foot.
Motorola.com?
Yeah,
I
we
go-
go to
You have 3
Motorola.com,
places.
BestBuy.com, Amazon.com, and Best Buy retail stores.
In September. Yep.
Right.
And
And so it's weird to me that I'm ranting about this because it's what I've wanted everybody to do. It's the original dream of the Nexus program. Vlad wrote a really good piece about this. Miss you, Vlad. Wish you were here. And like it's everything I've ever wanted, but for some reason I just don't believe that they're doing it because they're like good-hearted people that want the same mobile future that I want. I think they're doing it because the carriers are like, yeah, no. Sorry.
Well, there will clearly be a new droid, if nothing else.
Yes, there will
they
definitely
did
be new
indicate that
droids.
there would be new droids coming
Yeah.
later this fall, which would probably be very much based. I would be shocked if we didn't see the Play come to the U.S. as a droid with a droid name.
Oh,
as
no.
the droid.
Oh yeah, the droid
Mini.
super long battery. Yeah.
Mini,
Yeah.
and then a style as the new Turbo with probably a bigger battery and an uglier design.
All on Verizon exclusively.
Yeah, because Verizon owns
with
that droid
Verizon
trademark.
branding
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, they licensed that droid trademark from like Lucasfilm, but so there's a lot of ways you can like pick this apart. You could say like the carriers were like, you know what, nobody's buying your phones. You guys can go sell them all you want. Or they were like, yeah, we'd be happy to put your phones on our shelves, but we want X, Y, and Z on them. And Motorola went back and was like, well, you know what, we're gonna take the hard stance and pull the Apple move and say you can't put software on here and just sell them ourselves.
Which they have so much leverage to do.
Yeah, which they don't.
In fairness, in 2014, they didn't have retail channels for the unbranded unlocked phones.
Right.
So that might make a difference here. If
Well,
you can
yeah,
walk
they-
into a Best Buy and go to Best Buy Mobile, and instead of buying a locked phone, you can buy this pure phone for $399.
Like
maybe.
you can do it in an Apple
but
store
when you
with
think about what
iPhones,
Best
yeah.
Buy actually pushes on people to sell, they're all contract phones
Yeah,
because people
that's how
will go
Best Buy
in,
makes its money.
put no money down, and walk
Right.
out with a phone.
Right.
So they like getting Best Buy to sell your product is never. I don't ever think that's a good strategy. It's a rough
I
strategy.
wonder how many HTC Rees they've sold. Because they have like
Jeez.
a designed like kiosk for the Re at Best Buy stores.
Yeah. And then the other thing is like, even though Motorola is not selling this phone through the carrier channels, it certainly has talked to the carriers and worked with the carriers for various compatibilities and certifications. You know, you build a phone that works on Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and all their sub brands. You're talking to the carriers at some point to make sure that happens and works.
Yeah, like I wonder if like Volti will work, for instance. You know,
Yeah, I
if
don't
you
know.
buy a Pure Edition.
I don't know about exactly for the Moto X, but I've talked to a lot of because there's so many unlocked phones coming out this year that you can buy direct from the manufacturers. You've got Alcatel doing its thing. You've got ZTE with its new brand. We're going to talk about OnePlus in a minute. I've talked to all of them and asked
Spoiler
that
alert.
question: how much have you talked to the carriers? And so they can get Volti working. They need to
Volti
talk
for the non-nerds out there is voice over LTE.
voice over LTE, so that you don't need a standard voice connection.
But you know that, but you don't know
and-
what OS a BlackBerry runs. You got nothing. You got nothing.
and then they can even so
I've never owned a BlackBerry in my life.
Okay, then.
they can even get features like Wi-Fi calling on an unlocked sold direct phone.
Yeah.
By partnering with the carriers to make sure that's compatible. So
But
you know,
do they
there's no-
partner to make it work?
I
Not-
guarantee
the question is not can they.
I guarantee
question
you
is
that the
do they?
reason that Motorola is there's two companies that sell phones that work unlocked phones that work on Verizon and Sprint in the U.S. They're Apple and Motorola. If you count the Nexus 6.
No, okay, yeah.
Which is made by Motorola. So those two companies have really great or powerful carrier relationships. Motorola is probably leverage. Motorola.
I will never accept that Google has a great carrier relationship with
But
Verizon.
Motorola
Like,
builds the phone. But
no.
Motorola builds the phone.
Okay.
It's
It's probably
Motorola's
marginally
radios.
better than it used to be. It used to be
And
Motorola.
Motorola
Nexus
says,
6.
we've been selling droids with you for years. We'd like to sell this phone unlocked. Let's make it work. And, you
Yeah.
know, Verizon cooperates.
Sure.
And Motorola's like, we promise to bring more droids to your lineup. And you can use that droid brand that'll never die. And that's why those companies are able to do it. They have the relationships. Apple has the clout to be like, well, we're Apple. And then Motorola says, we've been working for years. Let's make this happen. Haven't seen, and there's no other manufacturer in the world that has a phone that works across all four carriers.
I bet the next Nexus though, which will be an LG, will work on Verizon.
Well, it might not be an LG.
It probably
might be a
will be.
Huawei.
There might be two. There might be a big one and a little one.
And we'll see.
Big
A little one.
one.
The chipsets are there.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Does it matter? Just one last question. Does it matter that Lenovo owns Motorola now?
No, they seem
Doesn't
to
seem
have
to.
been left them alone.
aside from the fact that they don't have to worry about running out of money.
Right.
Right.
And now they also have a
Not
really
that they did
solid
with
manufacturing. Yeah, not that they did with you, but like they have a really solid manufacturing back end.
Yeah.
so they can crank these out when they need to. And
So-
lots of Moto
Because
X.
they moved Moto Maker last year to China from Texas.
Yeah.
Poor Texas.
Yeah, poor Texas.
The poor factory.
Dan, didn't you see that factory
I
years
did see
ago?
that factory.
Yeah.
Here's my last question before I want to talk. I want to specifically talk about the Moto X. This is my question. What do we call it? Because most of our readers are in the U.S. Moto's called Moto. Everybody's calling it the Moto X style, but that's not what they're calling it here. I want to just call it like the 2015 Moto X,
new Moto
but
X
I can't
I like the new
because
Moto X.
there's also the Moto X Play. So if you just call it the Moto X, you're not referring to the right.
It's going
there's
to
like
be
three things.
it's going to be the Moto X automatically followed by which one?
Yeah, but like
That's it.
am I going to sit here and say I want to talk about the Moto X?
And then I'm
Pure
going to be like,
Edition?
which one?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what has to happen.
Hype check that plan.
Oh, that plan is like a -10.
Right.
But also their naming scheme
All
is
right.
like a -10.
Sam, let me ask you this question. I'm going to get this phone, and I'm going to review it, or Dan's going to review it. Somebody's going to review it for a website called TheVerge.com. What should the headline say?
Which phone are you reviewing though?
That's what I'm asking.
The
you.
Moto X.
I have the Moto X. Let's say it's a Moto X Pure Edition. I should call it the Moto X Pure Edition review.
Oh man, that's a really tough question.
Right?
Because it's also
what
the
about,
style.
What about when we write about whether or not updates are coming to it? What about when it has a software bug and it applies to both of them? And the people outside the U.S. know it as the Moto X style, and the people inside the U.S. know it as the Moto X Pure
and
Edition.
neither get an update to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, the correct answer is that you geolocate your reader, and then you localize their
You
headline.
change our mind.
AV the headline. Yeah.
It's going to be Moto X, right? Like that's what it's.
It's like, remember when we did the fanboys piece, and depending on what browser you clicked from, you got a different
Yeah, yeah.
style to it. So depending on what country you're from, the headline will change.
I'm very unhappy about it. Okay, so
We review all four at the same time, put them all at the same time.
what?
We're done.
I don't know what to call the stupid thing. I don't like. This is what I think of the Moto X
X.
Pure Edition. I think it feels really great. I think that Moto's thing that they decided 2 years ago that it was okay to make the phone kind of thick still applies. I wish the battery life were better on the Nexus 6 in that design, but regardless, or even the 2014 Moto X. But it feels really good, and it does not feel like it is a 5.7-inch phone.
Yeah,
Like,
it's hard to think that
it's
like
insane.
a 5.7-inch phone is acceptable.
It feels
but,
like not that much bigger than like a Nexus 6 to me, or
Or
I mean a Nexus 5 in terms of the width. It feels not huge, but it has a huge screen. It's really impressive.
yeah, if you put a Nexus 6 next to the new Moto X, it's 5.7-inch screen versus a 6-inch screen, but the Nexus 6 dwarfs it. It's
Yeah.
so much bigger.
Yeah.
And you can actually hold the new Moto X, which is what I'm calling it, Dieter, in your hand.
What
with
happens
one
when there's a
hand
successor to
and not
it?
drop it?
The new Moto X.
Well, that's what last year it was the new Moto X.
God damn it.
This is the iPad problem. So like, I don't know. I haven't used it long enough to say like, yeah, I can easily reach these corners with my thumbs and use this in one hand. But I will say that having spent time with the Nexus 6 and trying to use that in one hand, and I drop it all the time, and like I've dropped it on the floor of the train.
Well, I've given up on the dream of using a phone one-handed. Like that.
How do you
dream-
drink your coffee and write a text message?
You don't.
You
don't do it.
don't.
You sip your coffee with a straw and look like a buster.
Wow, that got real in a hurry.
And where do you put your coffee? You're standing on the train.
In between your legs or something. You lean down.
Wait, what are we talking about?
I don't know. We lost the
You're
thread here a
on the
little
go.
bit.
You're somewhere where you don't have a place to put stuff down in front of a
Yeah.
desk. You're holding a drink in your hand. You get a message and you want to reply.
You voice dictate it.
Yeah, you dictate it. Yeah, exactly.
No,
on your
you-
watch.
I actually
you get adept at using the thing in your hands, no matter how big it is, and type with your thumb like a real, like capable human. No
But
matter-
in
drop-
fairness,
I can one thumb type on an iPhone 6 or a Nexus 6, and the Nexus 6. By the
You
way,
can't
if
do that on a
if I were to hold it
Plus.
up in front of my face, like
No, you can.
you can't. I can one thumb. I can one thumb type on the Nexus or on the.
But the
iPhone
keyboard
6
isn't the
Plus,
problem.
No problem.
The keyboard isn't the problem. The problem is the upper left, like third
Yeah,
of
you
the
can't
screen.
go back. It doesn't exist.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
there. It's Narnia.
But
up there.
that dream has
just
come
real
and gone.
simple. Just that. Just
That's just like asking trouble. That's how you drop it. That's how you drop it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not how I drop it.
I hate
I've never dropped an iPhone 6 Plus.
Listen,
I've never dropped an Nexus 6.
Some crazy,
no problem.
We've all succumbed to large
long
screens.
Minnesota bred fingers.
No, I don't.
I don't know.
They're not that big. They're normal.
Well, the point I'm getting at.
I just have more dexterity than you guys.
The point I'm getting at is that I think Motorola made the right decision in releasing 3 new phones above 5 inches. I don't think there's anything wrong with that anymore.
Yeah.
They figured out, and they brought this up on stage, the fact that they've I don't know what the term is they use, but like the ratio of the screen to the body is like groundbreaking in some way.
I disagree with you fully.
You want to? Well, that's because you're using a 6 like a buster.
A normal human being.
Like a
Class A buster? No, that's not me. I use a normal size. This isn't even normal.
It's not even
size.
Class A busterism. It's next level busterism.
Dude,
you know, everybody that's like, oh man, I wish they would make a small phone.
Yeah.
And then you know what happened? They made small phones and nobody bought them.
Are you nuts?
No.
Motorola, nobody bought the first Moto X.
Yeah, that's because it wasn't good.
It was
actually
It was
pretty
great.
great.
It was a stupendous phone.
All right, look at how many iPhones they sell. Look at how many iPhone 3Gs, 3GS,
But the-
4S.
You know what?
thing
If
is,
Apple thought that it was a good idea to make a small phone,
They started out with small phones. They started out with 3.5.
No,
It started out with huge. When that came out, that was huge.
It was massive.
3.5-inch screen in
It was
2007
so
was
big.
unheard of.
On a relative scale from flip phones, sure, but now
No.
Compared to
Talking
other smartphones, compared to the Trio, to the BlackBerry, to the
Windows
Nokia
mobiles.
phones, to that bust HTC Touch thing. Actually, it was actually that little Pebble thing.
Yeah.
I actually love that phone. That phone was awesome.
I still have one of those
Those
somewhere.
little.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was such a good phone.
both of my parents had a Motorola Pebble, and they had it for like 4 years. I think that you're a buster for agreeing that big phones are good.
Big
They're
phones
not.
are awesome.
No, they're
Yeah,
not good.
they're super good.
They're ridiculous.
The best.
They're
the best.
frankly ridiculous. There's
They're
no
so good.
reason for them to be that big
That's
at
not
all.
true. You're totally wrong.
Hype
No,
check
there's-
big phones.
Bust. Just
Big
straight
phones
up.
give you better battery life.
Better
They let
battery
you
life.
see more on the screen. I don't have to scroll to see more than 2 tweets on my
So
screen.
make
I can
the
actually
screen
use it.
resolution higher, more pixel dense, and font smaller.
This is
yeah,
remember this is a
doesn't work.
25-year-old
not
speaking.
not everyone is a millennial, Sam.
Like literally, Sam, I'm not that much older than you, and if I make the fonts too small on my phone, I can't read it. Like, and it gets really uncomfortable and annoying.
What phone do you carry, Dan?
I have an iPhone 6,
Okay.
4.7 inch.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Or I switch between that and an HTC M8, which is a 5-inch.
I just think there are a lot of people out there that would
You're not
agree with
using-
me.
Sam,
There
You're
are
not-
a lot
you're
of
not using a
people that agree with
5S?
you. You're right.
I
Yeah,
know.
why aren't you using a 5S?
Because that is small. 5S is baby territory. I'm looking for 4.3 or 4.5. That's it. That's it.
Nah, it's too small.
I think if you went back to 4.5, you would be like, "What is happening? This is too small."
I don't think so.
Even the Nexus 5.
So, and
like,
then,
I
and
picked
then
up a
the
Nexus
other
5
the other
now, it's
side of it
tiny.
is on an iPhone, it's not using the space very efficiently. It's got that
Oh,
big
the
bottom
bezels are
bumper. It's got big
ridiculous.
top bumper.
Yeah.
If you look at the Motorola is pretty much screen top to bottom with 2 tiny speakers above and below. So there's no buttons taking up space. So you can put in
Give me a
this 5.2 inch screen or 5.5
inch
inch screen.
iPhone. That's all screen, and I'll be happy.
Where does the home button go?
Capacitive.
It's force touch.
Force touch home button. I don't know. Big phones are bust. That's the end of the conversation
Force
for me.
touch home button. I don't know if I want that.
So one thing that we have to talk about before we move on, Motorola's biggest weak point, regardless of its inability to sell phones and its inability to name things coherently, has been its cameras in
Right.
the past 3 years.
Oh, good
This
call.
year they are going ham on the camera. They said on stage this is the best camera in the industry, which is like the boldest claim they can
Yeah.
make.
They got them some high DxO mark scores.
They got
yo.
those DxO mark scores.
Got that
and they weren't even
DxO
ranked-
83.
The best part of it is that they made these claims on stage and then they're like, DxO ranked us number 2.
Yeah.
Who was number one?
This is the S6.
Yeah.
Which
And like the iPhone is like number 8 or something.
yeah,
the iPhone 6.
because all of those are just charts and like
Yeah.
they're spec charts and
Right.
like that is not real world experience. That's
Exactly.
that's not what people do with their phones. They
reference.
take photos of their pets and their kids, and when their kids are not sharp in their photos, they're upset.
Your kid just must move around all the time.
Have you seen a 6-month-old or a 3-year-old? They just move all the time, and especially if you're indoors and like the lighting's not super. Like your phone drags the shutter.
It is
and it's blurry.
impossible to have a conversation with Dan about cameras without hearing about how much his kids move around.
Because it's like it's the hardest thing. There's 2 things that are really hard to take with photos with, and that's professional hockey and middle toddlers. And reason
Those are the two.
That's not even a first world problem. That's like,
wait a minute.
what is where?
So-
did that come
How is
So-
professional hockey harder than the other professional sports?
because hockey's indoors, it's very fast moving, and you have the white ice that screws up the camera's metering, and you have to overexpose for it. So the camera sees all the white, and then it screws up its metering. It turns that gray, and then everything.
You
Gets
know what
dark.
I'm going to I'm
And
going
then
to say that
everybody's
I'm going to
moving
say
really
that it's
fast,
harder
and
to
it's
photograph
indoors.
swimming than it is
No.
ice hockey.
No.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb.
I'll get on that troll bandwagon with you,
yeah.
Peter.
What about like snowboarding or like
what
outdoors,
downhill
tons of
mountain
light.
skiing?
Done tons of light
Yeah,
outdoors.
but snow is extremely reflective.
Yeah, I mean, you have to compensate for that, but you have tons of light. The problem is that hockey is very fast moving and it's indoors under poor lighting.
So would you take a Moto X Play Style Edition 2015 to shoot a professional hockey game?
I don't know. They'll have to see.
If you're a photographer who shoots hockey games, you should email Dan Seifert.
So Dan
They'll
and
be
I
like,
both
I
tried
feel your
it a
plane.
little bit, but it was under relatively constrained conditions. There was only like one low light shot we could take. It's in like the full automatic mode. It is stupid fast.
It's really fast, yeah.
HDR
as fast as the S6.
yeah.
Wow.
HDR not so much because for some
course.
reason all HDR modes on Android, especially on Motorola phones, is like save.
Well, that's one thing. That's one
Also,
thing that S6
iPhones
does is it
is
does
not the best
HDR
either.
like real
Yeah,
time
yeah.
or whatever.
And it looks great in light, in bright light. Like, man, you just 21 megapixels. You just zoom all the way in, and there's like not a whole lot of distortion and noise, and color representation seems really good in good light. It's in the dark where I saw a ton of noise in the sample photo that I took, and it was like on a tripod. They had set it up to compare it to the Galaxy S6 because the Galaxy S6 did what's the thing where there's like purple crap coming out of the light sources, fringing.
Chromatic aberration, fringing.
Yeah, so it had that, and the HTC or the Moto one didn't, but the Moto one had a bunch of noise. In the
Yeah,
dark.
and I mean, what fixed that fringing is just a coating on the lens.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Okay.
But yeah,
What do you think of the camera?
it's very fast, like you said.
Yeah.
It seemed to be acceptable in decent light, and I have my reservations about low light, and we'll have to see.
It doesn't
Take
have a
picture of it.
fingerprint sensor, right?
Nope.
No.
A DOA.
Doesn't have a
Like,
fingerprint sensor.
Oh no, but Motorola Android M has like 15 different ways to unlock your phone automatically, and Motorola has like 15 more. And so like as long as you trust all the various you've got all these options. Like you can set I mean it's launch without you, but you can set a Nexus 6 to go into a mode where it will stay unlocked as long as it feels like it's still on your body. Like as long
Yep.
as it moves a little bit, you know.
That's actually, I think, any phone with Android L at this point, because
Yeah.
they updated it through Play Services.
I don't know if I'd trust that.
It's weird, right?
You
So
can-
if
I mean,
you set
it's-
it down,
it's-
it's like,
it's
oh, I'm
opt-in,
not moving
right?
now. I'm gonna lock. But if like you keep it in your pocket and on your person, it
Yeah.
detects your movement enough, and it's like, well, it's
You can set it
probably
to, they call it trusted on body movement. Then you got like trusted devices like your smartwatch,
Yeah.
your car. If you connect
Yeah.
it to Bluetooth, it'll
You can
stay
trust.
unlocked.
You can trust geographic locations.
Right.
You can trust Wi-Fi networks. I
Right.
think.
And you can trust your voice.
Yeah.
But they're all opt-in. You can
Wow.
turn them all on if you want. They're not.
Give me a fingerprint sensor. How hard is it?
So-
Samsung did it.
Ooh, segue. Speaking of fingerprint sensors, you know what has one?
Oh my god.
The OnePlus 2
Boom.
has a one fingerprint sensor on
did
the front
it.
of
We
it.
didn't hype check Moto X Pure Edition style play G.
I'm excited that someone is finally doing a almost pure Android device. Way to go,
That's not
Motorola.
new.
Everybody is.
That's not.
For a reasonable price.
But that's not
That's not
new.
new either.
That's
Nexus-
exactly what Motorola
Nexus
did last year.
5.
Oh, and Motorola last year.
Motorola
well,
last year.
Motorola's continuing the trend, and I applaud Motorola for doing so.
So what Motorola needs to do, and this is where they did a good job at the beginning, they dropped the ball on the second one, is to make sure that those software updates that they
Yeah.
promise are really great and coming soon actually get delivered to their phones. And they did really poor job delivering 5.1 to their
Now
phones. And
they won't issue them through carriers, right?
even
It's-
the unlocked models were super delayed for 5.1.
Yeah.
I reject your hype check.
I stand down. All right, 1 plus 2.
Speaking of
3.
hype, talk about hype.
Man, there.
It is so hyped right now. That
Why
device
the
is-
hype?
I don't know.
I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong; it looks very cool. But like even the original OnePlus One, like just the people that run this company are hype masters.
They are.
They're masters of the hype verse.
They're
Yeah.
excellent marketers.
They're
I mean, it's
You had to be a member of the Illuminati to get a OnePlus One for like 6 months.
right.
And like, which built the hype, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you ask them about that, and I have, and you'll see stuff on the site soon about lots of things I've asked them, but what their response is when they launched the OnePlus One 450 days ago, or whatever it is, year and a half, they were a completely unknown company. They had no idea if anybody was going to actually buy this phone or want it, so they only made 1,000 of them. They sold those 1,000 immediately, and then were like on a 3-month lead time. And then they tried to get components, and it was a longer lead time. So it took forever before they actually got some in stock to sell. And then this time around, they say they've got 30 to 50 times more stock. So they're launching with 30,000 to 50,000 phones.
And they got what, 700,000 pre.
As of today, I think they're up to 1 million. So they're still doing the invite system where you have to register to get access to buy the thing, to give them your money. But they are saying time and again that the invites aren't going to be as hard to get. It won't take as long to fulfill. You don't have to jump through all these hoops like you did last time to get the invites. But we'll see. We'll see if that really comes to pan out. The phone's coming out August 11th. It's just to talk about the phone really quickly. It's a similar size and design to the old one. It's 5.5-inch 1080p display. It's got a Snapdragon 810. It's got the fingerprint sensor, 13-megapixel camera, OIS. It's got a new metal design. It's got that same sandstone finish on the back, which is actually really nice. And then they have swappable covers with different woods, and there's a Kevlar one.
And what OS?
What's that?
Pure Android.
So it's running Android 5.1.
Stuff.
It's running Android 5.1.1. They're calling it their Oxygen OS, but it's really just a super minimal customization of Android. They haven't really rolled out any of their services that they plan out.
What's their relationship?
Not how you'd think.
What's their relationship with Cyanogen? Do they still have any relationship?
So they the only relationship they have with Cyanogen at this point is maintenance on the OnePlus One. So they still support the OnePlus One. They will deliver updates to the OnePlus One, but they're, to my knowledge, are not releasing any new phones with Cyanogen mods. So that's why they have their Oxygen OS, which is what they developed in-house. But really, it's a stock Android experience for the most part. And it's got that.
Why not just make it a stock Android phone?
Well, because their play as a company, so that gets to the price. So this thing is going to come out at $329 for a 16 gigabyte version, $389 for the 64 gigabyte version, which bumps you up to 4 gigs of RAM. Those are like super aggressive prices. They're not really making a profit on their hardware at all, especially not initially. Their long play, if you ask them, is to deliver software and services and make money off of those. So they need their own software platform in order to build those software services, stuff like that. And there's some really minor customizations.
Jiggery pokery. That sounds like they're gonna give me pop-up ads on my phone.
OnePlus Music.
I mean, who knows what it could be? But you can use your imagination to the wildest extent.
Sam, you understand hype better than anybody. Why the hype? Why so much hype around this thing?
Because it's like an indie Android device. And that's cool.
Is it really indie though?
Yeah.
Because OnePlus is a company of 700 people.
What?
They are they are very closely tied to Oppo.
Yep.
Or so I call it the poop phone. But they're very, very closely tied to Oppo and Oppo's parent company, BBK Electronics.
Yep.
They
so
one of their co-founders was a VP.
Are they owned by that parent company?
That's where it gets really murky because they will never admit their connections to those companies.
What does the Wikipedia page for OnePlus say?
But it seems to be that a lot of their funding comes through those channels.
Yeah.
And especially a lot of their talent. A lot of their 700 employees are former Oppo employees. So
it's like they're just rebranding Oppo?
No.
It's a new brand and new company, but it's not a startup that's making things in a garage.
Interesting.
So
when the OnePlus came around last year, that came with significant backing and support.
Well, I think one of the reasons that OnePlus caught on last year is they had Cyanogen Mod, and so it felt like this.
There's a built-in community.
Yeah, there's a built-in community, a fan base. It was scrappy, and like how difficult it was to get one. Also, like built up the hype. But I think more than anything, they were slightly ahead of the curve of everybody else doing. Basically, we've been talking about this a bunch. Basically, anybody that wants to can go out and build a pretty darn good Android phone right now. Marshall can go out and build a pretty darn good Android phone right now. Just go do it. It's not hard. And they were one of the first companies to do that, make it, sell it direct, and have it unlocked and have it be a hit in the U.S. and like make that model actually work. And now there's a bunch of companies that are doing it, Motorola included, this year. But the thing that's weird to me is they've managed to, with the second version, keep all of that hype in a way that like I didn't expect them to.
Yeah, I mean, to be
so
fair,
I want the hype whisperer to explain it to me.
To be fair, the phone itself looks really awesome. I got a chance to play with it earlier today. It's built really well. It feels a lot nicer than last year's model because it's not all plastic. The metal's really great. The sandstone back is great. The fingerprint sensor is great. The screen's a lot better. The supposedly the camera will be a lot better, and it's still super aggressive price. If you're under $400, they're undercutting Motorola. And it's got some really cool things, like it has a ringer switch on it, which lets you switch between different notification settings.
Man, if they just put a slide-out keyboard on there, I would just like a.
You're still jonesing for a hardware keyboard?
Yeah,
I thought I was the only one left.
No.
So it's you and I fighting this battle.
We're gonna buy that BlackBerry together.
I want a Sidekick, but I won't even get started.
Don't even
Look at Chris.
let it go.
Chris, the Sidekick was the best smartphone I ever owned in my life.
Which model?
LX.
Yeah,
Peak.
yeah. I mean, Alex was pretty dope at the time.
It was.
It had a VGA display at a time when most phones were QVGA.
You could aim on it.
Yeah, that thing was
So the OnePlus 2
we
has
gotta wrap.
like really great things, but it's missing things like NFC, quick charging, wireless charging, and all these other nerd things. Dieter doesn't care about
I do care a little bit about quick charging.
Quick charging is
actually.
like a genuinely useful and cool thing.
Yeah.
Having used a lot of phones with it.
Yeah.
car hacking.
No, we gotta go. It's been an hour.
We were talking
Man.
phones, man.
That's right.
Our producer just said we should Vergecast for 4 hours.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Or I could go home and play Splatoon.
24-hour Vergecast marathon. Is anyone down right now? Let's all in. Let's do this thing. Yeah, let's do it. We're at Telethon. We're
Oh
gonna do
my
this thing.
God! Imagine if we had readers call in for 24 hours straight and just answer questions.
What if we had readers email Sam for 24
No,
hours straight?
please not. No, thank you. No, the emails are great. Oh, I want to address those. I just ate the mic. I want to address the people that emailed me. Thank you for emailing me. If I haven't emailed you back, it's because I clicked your email and then 9 more came in at the same time. Really appreciate
It's
your
kind
emails.
of a humble brag.
No, it's
Totally.
crazy. My inbox has never been so hot in its life.
Yeah, it's kind of a humble brag.
And thanks for emailing me. I appreciate it. And I've read all of them. Just because I haven't answered doesn't mean I haven't read it. So thanks.
Lesson is email Sam.
And that's it.
This episode of the Vergecast is brought to you by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, you should check out Braintree. It's just one simple integration, and you can offer your customers an easy way to pay, period. To learn more and to get your first $50,000 in transaction fees for free, go to braintreepayments.com/Vergecast. And now I think it's time to get socialized.
I'm just looking at some emails coming in. Big phones are ridiculous.
There we
Big
go.
phones are ridiculous. Thank you.
Just made the most friends.
Thank you to your readers.
If you'd like to contact The Verge, email us at sam@theverge.com. We're also on Twitter. Oh, no, I'm not going to do your job, Sam. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You should follow us on the chat of the Snap. If you listen to this and you don't follow us on Snapchat now, I'll kind of be surprised because literally every single week I promote our Snapchat account. But if you're not friends with us on Snapchat, you should be. We are The Real Verge on Snapchat, and we periodically tweet our snaps and Facebook our snaps, so you can find us there as well. You should like us on Facebook to get our news delivered to your news feed, facebook.com/Verge. We're also on Periscope. Now that Neela's on here, I'm going to go guns blazing.
No, man. You can't you get 3.
You should follow us on Periscope.
3.
We're at Verge. You should follow us on Instagram. We're also at Verge.
That's 3.
And I have to pass it back to Dieter.
Yeah. So we would like you to go to iTunes and subscribe there because that seems to be the one that everyone cares about. And you should rate us there as well. You should give us how many stars? 5, I think, is what's
5.
appropriate. And you could also type out a review, and you could tell us what is the largest phone that you would acceptably use. And my guess is that it's as many inches as stars, 5.
Phone pad.
Yeah.
7-inch phone.
And while you're there, you can also check out Verge ESP, which is a lovely podcast about entertainment and science. It's the Entertainment Science Podcast. If you think about it, the naming scheme there.
Hence the name, yeah.
Really makes sense. There's also a lovely show called What's Tech, which explains tech at a really basic level that's really approachable and fun. It's a really great podcast with Christopher Thomas Plant. You can find both of those podcasts at itunes.com/The Verge. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Backlon. Dan is at DC Seifert, Seifert. Chris is at ZPower, and Sam is at Sam Sheffer.
That's me.
See you next time, everybody.
Rock and roll.